Your dark master speaks. Blah. All right, Blue Table fans, here we go. First off, I'm running a supers game on a combination of Discord and Roll20. Message me or email me if you are interested in being at that. We're still figuring out a time. It's definitely going to be in the evenings. Okay, here we go. First off, I've been reading a book called The Monsters Know What They're Doing. And it's really good. It's basically a book that goes to the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition monster manual and gives you insights on how to actually play the monsters intelligently. And it's really pretty incredible. I have really only been using the creatures I put against my players at about 50%. Tops, maybe as low as like 20%. So to make more interesting encounters and run them in a more flavorful way, I do definitely recommend that book. By the way, this is just this and that. I don't know why anybody's watching this. Apparently I can put up any old garbage and like 200 people will click on it. So there you go. That's not bad. And oh, by the way, if anybody is an expert on YouTube, I've thought about, what's the word, doing plugs, like charging people to put things in my videos or somehow associated with it. I don't know if that's the right thing, though, but I'd sure like to know what was really involved. And also, could I make the channel better that way, too? Also, I saw a thing where YouTube has, like in recent years, has started just running ads on videos whether or not you decide to monetize those videos. So it seems to me like, well, I may as well do it because then I'll see some of the revenue from that. But this channel has never been about revenue from the videos themselves. That couldn't possibly really amount to very much. It's always been a means to kind of promote our services, but more than that, it's been a way to connect with the community. And for me, that's always been the most important thing. The meaningfulness of what it is that I'm doing. And not just the meaningfulness in terms of a community, and like it or not, I do have a small one here, but also meaningfulness for myself, like what am I doing in life? And blue table painting obviously has been the main focus of my professional life from age 35 to 52. What? So that's the prime years, guys. And by the way, BTP in just a few days is going to turn 18. So I might make a video reflecting on things, but more likely a video looking towards the future. So yeah, I'm open to your comments on all of that, and I would love somebody to kind of show me how it works, branding or whatever. I've been thinking recently, like, how do I explain this? Media exists. And nowadays, it's possible for individuals that before would have zero voice, absolutely no way to put themselves out there. You know, their reach might be just kind of neighbors or family or whatever. But now, me, a commoner, a peasant, will be able to put out things that might reach a couple hundred people. And I don't know where I got this idea, but I always had this sense like a media outlet had a responsibility to check for the integrity of what it is that they were saying. Is it really true? And obviously in our society now, that's just out the window. But to me, when I look at the channels that I subscribe to, not just on YouTube, but other types of social media, like Facebook, for example, I think individuals bear that responsibility now. Even if their reach is only 20 or 50 people or whatever, to take a look at what you're putting out there. Is it right? Does it make any sense? Does it pass basic criteria of logic? So tons of false logic out there, and like obvious basic stuff. So anyway, I've been looking, of course, I look at myself first, like how am I doing? And I, of course, avoid all of that by simply not putting out opinions or trying to persuade people or kind of get into larger issues. I just like, hey, this is my family, these are some models that I painted, very simple stuff like that. So maybe I shouldn't be talking about it. And I definitely find myself to be kind of unreliable. Like, I look back at my life of all the times that I was wrong about something, where over time my opinion changed, where I'm like, oh yeah, I don't believe that anymore. And so I don't find myself to be a good person to tell other people what to believe and what to think or what to try or whatever. But I do love giving reviews of products. So that could be something that I might do more of in the future. I become recently interested in Neanderthals. Like for, I guess, depending on who you ask, 160,000 years, there's this race of like cavemen, I guess, who have existed and were like lived and had ways of being. And I'm just like, wow, that's so amazing how little time the humans have been around. Like, we look at our history and it's like the only like bright history is like the last 100 years or 200 years. And, and then back 500 years, past that, it gets maybe a little bit murky. And it's interesting to me. So Neanderthals, I'm just like, hey, you Neanderthal, you were around for like a long time. What were you doing? What was your life like? And of course I look at myself and I'm like, oh, how will humans be around? And I saw a little interview with Elon Musk, and he was like, hey, I wonder how many one-planet civilizations are just floating around in space that they didn't make it. And because they never sort of branched out. Well, anyway. Hey, so my web store, I love it. And you should know, though, that it's kind of a fun afterthought. Like, I don't pay the bills off of the web store, but I do love to get in trades, turn them around really quick, sell them cheap, rehome these models. And because I've got opinions on how things should be priced in the secondhand market. Like, I see these ads like on Facebook groups or wherever it is, and they're just like, oh, here's all my models. I'm giving 20% off retail. I'm like, nope, secondhand models, 50% off. And if there's a good reason or there's something special about them, you can go all the way up to 30% off. But in that 20% range, that's basically where stuff should be. And if something's particularly terrible, like pieces missing, needs TLC, needs refurbishment, needs stripping, that could actually lower than 50%. And I think people should get on board with that. All right, anyway, the opposite of what I was saying earlier. All right, well, that's different than telling somebody how to live their life. All right, so something that's become interesting to me in recent years is hypocognition. And I think I've talked about this before. And it's the idea that you're missing something obvious, or that I'm missing something obvious. And of course, I'm interested in this because, why? I want to better my own life. Oh boy, do I have any water here? Yeah, a little bit. By the way, I drink like, excuse me, at least a gallon of water a day. A lot of water. And hypocognition. So one of those things is called the Bechdel test, and it's basically an idea or a test that's applied to a movie. And so I'm going to give two examples of hypocognition, things that never occurred to me before but now are obvious. And Basically, are there two female characters? So, I'm sorry. To pass the test, a movie has to have two female characters. Second, the two female characters have to talk to each other. And third, they have to talk about something besides a man. And I was surprised to find out that, except maybe in recent years, about half of all movies fail this test. And I was like, oh, just never saw it before. Bing, shh, glass shattered. The other thing is sidewalks. That I can't remember what country it's in. I think it's Holland. Maybe it's in a lot of different countries. But the idea of a continuous sidewalk, that the sidewalk has like maybe bricks in it, but it goes across the road at the same level as the side. It never goes down. So when a car reaches that intersection, they have sort of the feeling like they're intruding on a space where maybe pedestrians are going to be. And the road actually bumps up a little bit. And then in the US, obviously the sidewalk ends, it goes down. There's maybe little bumps there, some sort of indication to keep it from stepping out in the road. Because why? The road is the territory of vehicles. And of course, maybe there's like drainage issues. I don't know. So I had a third one, but when I went to go write it down, I was like, it already left. So examples of hypocognition, like things that might not be obvious. Pathfinder books. I want to talk about this. What is it? Oh, 5E. Yeah, that's another thing I want to talk about. Okay, this is going to be a great one. Yeah, try not to get too spicy in your comment. I'm going to leave the comments open for this, but guys, it's not worth my trouble to police things. So, just be constructive. Anyway, so in 2008, Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition came out, and it was a disaster. They lost the heart of the game. And I liked 4E. I had a lot of fun with it. This was about the time that I was in the Badger Hole, so I definitely remember running it. And of course, I just accept it. I'm like, oh, this is Dungeons & Dragons. I guess I'm playing it. And I did, of course, notice that it was a lot different. And so Paizo, a publishing company that was doing supplemental materials for Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 under the Open Game license, they basically redid the game. They came out with their own version, which is called Pathfinder. So there was a split. And I made a goal to collect every single Pathfinder publication. And by the way, there's a lot of them. So if anybody local wants to pick up my Pathfinder First Edition collection, which is minimum 210 books, and a lot of modules and adventure paths and stuff like that. 210 books. I have a price in the liner notes. It's super cheap, but I don't want to ship them. And so now if you're from somewhere else and you're like, I really want them. Well, that's fine. You can just peck around, find someone local who's willing to basically accept money to do all the shipping. And there you go. So I've got that. And Guy, what else? Oh yeah, 5th edition. So I skimmed 5th edition. I'm like, oh, this is pretty simple. Maybe I need to make it more complicated. And so as you guys know, last winter I wrote a 90,000 word player's handbook for my own system. And it was pretty cool. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to swing the opposite of old school rules of tiny systems. And I'm going to make mine for miniatures and super complicated. And boy, did I ever. But now I've had a change of heart. And I've decided 5th edition has a lot of granularity. And of course, and there are great ways that I can introduce some nice twists for my own background and world. And of course, everybody has this. Oh, I'm doing a homebrew. So anyway, so I'm converting that all basically back to 5th edition. And I've been running a 5th edition game for a while now, at least 6 months, and really, really enjoying it. And the 5th edition system has a lot of depth to it. Like, there's really a lot to it. And basically, not that much wanting, in my opinion. So I'm having a good time with that. And as you guys know, to sort of cap this all off, I am very keen on the idea of using miniatures as storytelling devices and using role-playing games as a setting or a framework for actually having a miniatures battles game, where it's not always role-playing, it's actually some tabletop tactics thrown in there too, giving the players a deployment zone and kind of like, okay, how are they going to approach this bandit camp to deal with what's going on. So, if you want to swing it in terms of 40K, more of narrative games. So that's really exciting. And coming up again, as I mentioned, coming up on 18 years of Blue Table Painting, and I'm very excited for it because I started the company in January 1st, 2004 is the first official day. I did that so I'd be able to remember it. I was doing commissions as early as summer of 2003, and I was still a school teacher at the time. And I have had a really great time. It's been really an amazing adventure. Looking back, I found myself distancing myself from judgments. Like, maybe I myself don't understand my life and what's actually happened to me. And oftentimes I think of myself as a good judge of myself. And the fact is, well, maybe I'm not. Maybe as I grow older, I can see things in new and better perspectives. And I'm having a good time with that. Like, and as the more I do it, the more I sort of I become non-judgmental about myself, about my experiences, about people that I met along the way. And I'm like, oh, maybe it wasn't how I thought it was. And of course, that has to do with the stage of life that I'm in, 52. And I feel a sense of accomplishment. Like, there's really, other than like some sort of far-fetched stuff, I more or less am doing what I want to do in life. And I have lived a very fulfilling life. And I feel this great sense of accomplishment and peace. And I'm having a real good time. And I'm having a great holidays. I hope you guys are too. And yeah, that's all I had to talk about today. I'd be glad to hear your comments, your nice, measured comments on anything that I've talked about. And please give me some new topics. That would be really cool, because I gotta keep the social media going.